Item number 5 on page 10 is consider an ordinance changing the zoning of 5.491 acres at 4500 Highway 180 East in Mineral Wells, Palo Pinto County, Texas. Current factory outlet store location from commercial C to light industrial LI, and further consider a specific use permit for this location to operate a bottle works facility as defined in the City of Mineral Wells zoning ordinance. Do I need to open this?
Yes, if you would open the public hearing.
Open the public hearing at 6:03.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and council members, this particular zone change request and request for a specific use permit came before the Planning and Zoning Commission at its meeting on October the 13th. It was a special call meeting due to some exigent circumstances, as we understand it, with the potential purchase of the property. At that particular meeting, a public hearing was held. There were no objections registered at the meeting, nor were there any letters or written objections that had been previously sent in to the commission and to our code enforcement staff. After the public hearing, the commission voted unanimously by a 4-0 vote to recommend approval of both the zone change request as well as the specific use permit. I believe that you have an insert in your packet that was provided to you. This is a little bit different because the applicant is not requesting the change in zoning for the entire property, but essentially the rear portion of the property that encompasses the building and the rear parking and service area, access area. So we wanted to make y'all aware of that. The front portion of the property where the parking lot is would remain commercially zoned based on this request. You will find an ordinance on page 18 that would accomplish this zone change as requested, and also a specific use permit on page 21 that is being recommended for approval as well. I would draw your attention to the specific use permit on page 21. The city attorney has prepared this in a way such that the certificate of occupancy has to be obtained and the ownership must be transferred to the applicant, Brazos Valley Spring Water, within a 90-day period, or the specific use permit is no longer valid. So there is a...
Well, there's a provision in there also that the city and the...
we can extend by mutual agreement, yes. But, for example, if the transaction is not consummated, then the specific use permit is basically invalidated at that point. We have Mr. Brian Horton with us this evening. This is a bit of an unusual zone change request. If you have any questions of him, he is the Chief Operating Officer with Brazos Valley Spring Water. If you would have any questions or would like Mr. Horton to explain what their project entails.
Would you mind explaining what your project entails?
Absolutely not. From the seat or up here?
If you come up here and identify yourself and give us your address as well.
Absolutely. Explain what my project entails. My name is Brian Horton. I live at 3715 Highway 281 North here in Mineral Wells, Texas. I've been a resident of the city most of my life, except for when I was going to Texas Tech. So my heart's here. My family's certainly here. Probably, I guess, about 11 years ago, we started operating a bottled water business in Millsap, Texas, at the location for Spring. Since that time, we've gone through some ups and downs, and certainly have a really steady course right now. Definitely on the upswing. We've actually reached a point where we've not completely exhausted our resources as far as water supply there at our current location, but we kind of estimate based on the growth that within the next 12 to 24 months we're going to be in an issue where we're going to be trucking water from the city of Weatherford to a degree that it's just not financially viable any longer. So getting sourced to municipal supply is very important to us. So as we began to kind of look around at what other options are available, certainly we already had a relationship with the city of Weatherford. We're located in Parkland County, but through it all, just kind of looking at, hey, what's available, what's out there. In addition to it, everybody that's involved with this company, their heart's in Mineral Wells, and this is where we wanted to be. And so once we kind of began to look into, you know, water supply here at the city, began to talk with Lance, a lot of our concerns there were, basically we have none. And so we said, well, let's kind of look for a place. We found a location that's very suitable for what we want to do. Its availability is there, and so we're looking to get in there. What we're going to do, we've actually already got equipment on order to basically expand the 2 lines. We're planning on landing it at our facility in Millsap, but he mentioned the kind of the exigent circumstances. The opportunity here presented itself if we were able to move quickly that I can actually land that equipment here in Mineral Wells next March and begin operation here. That makes the transition, say instead of 4 to 6 weeks, it makes it 2 to 4 weeks. Really, it's going to be more like 2. Which is important to us, but at the same time, it is vitally important to our customer not experiencing that downturn. They are fairly new to the Texas market, but they're doing a ton of business in the Texas market. They've never actually, one customer's driving most of this expansion. We've got a long-term contract with them. That said, they really haven't even tried to sell in this market. It's probably the best way to put it. They've got distributorships lined up, a few new ones, and so their growth is expected to really double from what their current status over the next, 12 to 18 months. It's really going to happen probably a little bit quicker than that. They have a solid history with me of under-promising and over-delivering, which has caused some headaches here in the past, but too much business is not ever really a bad thing. What we're doing right now, currently, we have 25 jobs. They'll all be moving to Mineral Wells. We won't be operating in Parker County any longer. Outside of, we will be operating a municipal water source that we currently have there and trucking the spring water bottle it in Palomain County here in Mineral Wells. We would expect that the job count would go from 25 to about 30 to 31 within, possibly even by next summer. I would say, you know, kind of up here in front of you guys, it's probably more like September, October, give me a little leeway so you don't come back and yell at me. But I would say possibly next summer we'll be at that number and be able to stay there. Once we get to where I can fill up my, you know, the current line I have, how fast I can do that, I would estimate right now anywhere from 6 to 18 months to get that done. Once that's done and I'm manufacturing full speed on my current line, you're looking at about 40 jobs. Past that, we do have some tentative plans for a 3rd line in 2020 right now. That would bring in additional jobs. At this point, I wouldn't really be able to comment exactly, you know, how many that would be. But from that standpoint, you know, that's kind of what's on the table for you. And really, the main thing we're looking for is a zone change, in all honesty. That's really what it entails. And we're looking forward to be there. I think you guys have some information I presented to Lance as far as my father was unavailable to be here, but he sent you a nice letter. And then, of course, the property owner there at 1340 East 9th Street Realty Corporation sent a letter as well as kind of expressing his intentions. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Brian, we didn't include that in there.
Oh, you guys don't have that? Would you like me to give that to him?
That'd be fine.
All right. I don't know if I've got 3. I don't know if I've got one I could be happy to give to the mayor. And you guys can take a look at that. Feel free to read any of that into.
How many gallons of water do you plan on using?
So right now, we would currently estimate that so assuming March, you know, at the time we start, we're probably looking at about 20 to 30,000 gallons a day. From that standpoint, you can kind of extrapolate the growth. I would say, you know, once we actually achieve a double volume growth with, you know, a couple sets of customers, you're looking at 40 to 60, probably closer. I'd probably say it's going to land about 55 to 60,000 gallons, and that's per day, stretched over typically 22-day operating period. Typically, if I'm operating outside of 22 days a month, it's because one day I was down. So obviously, machinery's not running. I'm not using water. That's just kind of what we're looking at there.
Man, 22,000 gallons a day equates to how much money?
That's actually incorrect, sir. It would be about 30,000 would be kind of what you want to plan on. 22. The 22 number would be production days per month. So you're looking at 660,000 gallons.
Yeah. Well, you can figure about $4 a 1,000. So I think Brian, in some discussions we'd had earlier, was saying that they're likely purchases would be in the $8,000 to $10,000 of.
Yeah, the numbers
Geared up.
the numbers I ran were based on the max rate down here, because I just figured it at that when I was budgeting these things and trying to figure it out. And of course, you know, I'm supposed to ask them 20 questions, is commercial and all that stuff. The max rate I had basically looking at $3,800 a month to $6,000, so you're looking at about $8,000 a month based on those numbers. Of course, I would expect that there would be some increase on that as well, but that's just what I can kind of vouch for at this time and say this is definite.
Any other questions?
Yeah, if you get this program all put together, will you be taking control of the entire 15+ acres?
We will be taking control of the whole 15+ acres, and that's the intention. Again, to that point, I would like to make a point. One of the reasons that we only want the building and the back parking lot light industrials, in our opinion, that's the only portion of the property that needs to be light industrial. It is sized as suitable for us to expand inside of that building without having to add anything to it. And certainly, as a citizen of the city, and certainly as from y'all's standpoint, we're not looking to turn that area into another version of a light industrial Walters or something like that. I think the front portion of that parking lot absolutely should remain commercial, and ideally we would have something nice and put up in front of it, so that way the visibility to our production facility, of course, is a food manufacturing facility. I expect a few knocks on the door initially, but certainly longer term, we'd like to just sort of reduce the visibility. So I'd like to see something really nice in there from a commercial aspect as quickly as possible that makes sense for everybody involved.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I got a question, but I think it's probably more for Lance. In our zoning code, that property is currently listed as commercial.
Yeah.
And I think that under that classification, it calls for a bottling works as being permittable. So my question is, why are we going through changing from commercial to light industry?
Well, my recollection of the code is that isn't the case, but we can certainly look that up.
I can confirm, because I've checked it numerous times, because if this was not the best way to go, I didn't want to go this way. But according to the code, in my reading of it, to be a operated bottling works, it has to be light industrial or less, a heavy industrial obviously would work as well. And light industrial was the least owner, or the best classification for it. I can't remember the exact page number that's on, but it's in there.
One other point, Brian, you indicated it's possible you could be a tenant as opposed to an owner within this 90-day period, right?
Absolutely.
So you need a certificate of occupancy if you're a tenant.
Mhm.
So in that regard, on the acceptance portion of the specific permit, I'd like to recommend to the council that if you didn't acquire ownership or become a tenant within 90 days, that it becomes null and void. It's on page 21. And we can get that change made.
John or Lance or Brian, because this product would not be staying here,
Mm-hmm.
it would be going elsewhere. Granted, it's not the same cost value as oil with BJ Services, but what would be the tax benefit to the city of this coming in, and what would be our plan going forward to set something aside in case the comptroller screws up again and gives us tax revenue for stuff that doesn't actually belong to us?
Well, I think probably the best person to answer that question would be Brian. I don't know if you pay any tax since it's a consumable food item, or if that's paid at the retail level.
So
anyway.
there is no sales tax on bottled water. There's also no sales tax on the equipment to manufacture bottled water at this time. I do understand that due to some changes in Austin at some point, that could certainly change. But at this time, according to your concern, I'm sure you're referencing the issues you guys had with the comptroller here in the past. In our case, that's not going to be a problem simply because we're not going to be collecting any sales tax.
Any other questions? Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak for this project? Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak against this project? Then I will close the public hearing at 6:18. What's the pleasure of the council?
Move that we approve amending the zoning ordinance of the city of Mineral Wells, Texas by changing the zoning designation of a 5.437 acres tract of land out of section number 5 TNT RRCO survey block A EOB abstract number 870 Powhatan County, Texas from commercial district C to light industrial LI.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the ordinance. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Now, as far as part B here, of the specific use permit, what's the pleasure of the council?
Move that we approve the specific use permit as amended with recommendations from the city attorney.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the specific use permit with modifications. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? It passes 5-0.
Thank you, Brian.